right, welcome to The Explainer. Today we're going to tackle a question that honestly trips up parents and teachers all the time. What's the real difference between a bright child and a gifted learner? And you know what? The answer might actually surprise you. So let's get right into it. You know the kid I'm talking about, right? The one with the perfect report card, always gets straight A's. And it's so easy for us to just look at them and say, oh, they're gifted, and just move on. But is that really the whole story? Because as we're about to find out, the line between being bright and being gifted, well, it's a lot fuzzier and more interesting than you'd think. Okay, so to really get our heads around this, let's look at a story. And this is a story that honestly could be playing out in any school, anywhere, right now. It's about a student named Alex, and his case, man, it just perfectly highlights the exact problem we're talking about. So picture this. You've got Alex's teacher, and she sees something special in him. You know, he's sharp, he's always participating. She's just convinced he's gifted. So she follows her gut, and she officially recommends him for the school's gifted program. And that's when the whole official process kicks in, right? It's not just about what one teacher thinks anymore. The school starts to build this whole file. They're looking at everything: test scores, work samples, checklists from teachers, checklists from parents, the whole shebang. And then, here's the twist in the story. After all of that testing, all those evaluations, the committee comes back with their decision, and the verdict is Alex is not identified for the gifted program. He doesn't make the cut. So now you can just imagine everyone's just scratching their heads, the teacher's totally confused, the parents are frustrated, and poor Alex is just stuck right in the middle. I mean, this story is the perfect example of that huge gap between what looks like giftedness on the surface and what it actually is. So what happened here? What went wrong with Alex? Well, the answer lies in this really subtle but absolutely critical distinction: the difference between being a bright child and a gifted learner. So let's really break down what that means. Okay, first, let's talk about the bright child. This is your classic good student. They know how to play the game of school, they pay attention, they do the work, they learn the material, and they do it really well. These are the students who honestly make the school system work, and they totally thrive within it. But now, let's talk about the gifted learner. It's almost like their brain is running on a totally different operating system. See, while that bright child is laser focused on getting the right answer, the gifted learner is busy taking the whole question apart, seeing how it works, and then thinking up a bunch of brand new questions. And this chart, wow, this really lays it all out, doesn't it? Just look at some of these side by side. A bright child knows the answers, but the gifted learner, they're the one asking the questions. Or how about this one? A bright child works hard. The gifted learner, they might look like they're just playing around, but then they'll ace the test. It's just a fundamentally different way of approaching the whole idea of learning. Here's another way to picture it. The bright child, someone like Alex, right? They're often at the very top of their class. They're the top of the pyramid. But the gifted learner, they might not even be on that pyramid. They could be off to the side building something totally new. They're playing a whole different game. And get this, look at the difference in just learning speed. A bright child might need, say, 6 to 8 repetitions to really master a new concept. A gifted learner, they often just need 1 or 2. That is a huge difference in just pure processing power. Okay, but here's where things get really tricky. Because giftedness, it doesn't always show up as a perfect straight A report card. In fact, sometimes it can actually look like a problem child. I mean, on paper, these are exactly the traits schools say they want, right? They want kids who are super curious, who are rapid learners, creative, kids who can see the big picture and connect ideas that nobody else does. So that leads to a big question, right? If these kids are so smart, why do so many of them struggle in school? And this is such a key part of the puzzle. The very traits that make them gifted can be the exact same things that make a traditional classroom feel like torture. Yeah, I'm talking about that underachieving gifted student. You might see them procrastinating, or maybe they're always challenging the teacher, or they just seem totally checked out. And it is so easy to label that behavior as laziness or just a bad attitude. But what's really going on? A lot of the time, it's just profound boredom. Their brain is firing on all cylinders, and to them, the classroom just feels like it's stuck in slow-mo.
Okay, so with all this complexity, how in the world do schools actually sort this out? What's the real process for identifying who is gifted and who isn't?
Well, let's take a look at a real-world example. The Ontario School District has a pretty well-defined plan. So we can use their system as a kind of case study to see how schools take all these abstract ideas and turn them into an actual formal process.
So here's kind of how it works. First, there's a referral. That could come from a teacher, like in Alex's case, or even a parent. Then the school starts gathering all this data, building a whole portfolio of information. And here's the key part. It all comes down to a team decision. It's never just one person or one single test score that decides it. The whole point is to look at the complete picture of the student.
Now, don't get me wrong, test scores are definitely part of it. A lot of the time, a student needs to score at or above the 97th percentile on standardized tests. And just to be clear, that means they scored higher than 97 out of every 100 kids their age. So yeah, it's a really high bar. But again, it's just one piece of a much bigger puzzle.
So what's the real takeaway from their process? It's that schools are looking for a pattern. They need to see a consistent body of evidence, exceptional ability shown over time, not just one amazing test score or one great project. It's about seeing the whole movie, not just a single flashy scene.
All right, let's bring this all home. Why does any of this really matter? Why should we care about this distinction in the real world? For ourselves, for our kids, for our students?
And that brings us right back to Alex. Look, the whole point of this isn't to say that gifted is somehow better than bright. Not at all. It's about understanding that these are two different kinds of learners, and they both have incredible value, and they both need different kinds of support to thrive. Being a bright, hardworking student like Alex is a wonderful thing, and it should absolutely be celebrated, not looked at like some kind of second place. And really, that's what this all boils down to. The goal shouldn't be to just slap a label on a kid. The real goal is to try and understand each child's unique way of seeing the world so we can give them the right challenges and the right support. Because in the end, it's not the label that matters one bit. It's about unlocking that amazing potential that's inside every single student.